Hi, Carol Beringer here, and welcome to the Amazing Movement podcast. And the purpose of this podcast is to help you find as much joy and well-being in your life day in and day out. Hi, and welcome to a new episode of Amazing Movement, the Carol Beringer Method. And this is my dear friend, Liz Seaden, who I met 11 years ago in a yoga training, because anytime I do anything movement, if I'm going to do it, I need to get certified in it and add it to my tool bag. And I met Liz, and I was just drawn to her immediately. and so, yeah.
The feelings mutual, definitely, Carol.
Great. And it was a really great experience.
It was a great experience.
And I was having trouble with revealing myself, because they had this thing called town hall.
Oh,
and
hometown.
Okay.
Remember that?
Yeah,
was...
Yes, it was part of the training where you had to speak. There were 20 people, I think, in the training.
Something like that.
And you had to tell...
For 10 minutes, you had to speak about yourself.
Yeah. And I was beyond panic stricken.
Well,
You went early to get it over with.
I went the first time.
Yeah.
Because I just thought, I cannot have this hanging over my head. When I heard we had to do that, I was sort of so nervous about it. And so I thought, right, I'm going to do it the first weekend just to get it out of the way so I wouldn't have that anxiety about it. And so I spoke so quickly and told my kind of life story in 3 minutes. And then they said, okay, you still have 7 minutes to go.
Right.
And they made us fill up that time. And so it was
But you did tell me that, because I was so panic stricken about it. And I don't really get anxiety or panic, but I just did not want to do it. And
it's hard to just talk about yourself.
Well, because they wanted you to reveal personal things. And you said, I didn't reveal half of my personal stuff.
Yeah.
So I'm going to make you reveal it today, though. Okay. Now, I'm not going to make you do anything, but we're just going to have a great catching up.
I'm comfortable revealing things, but I don't presume people want to know everything about me. So if it's pertinent to a conversation, I'm quite happy to reveal things, but I'm not somebody that will just bring something up, unless there's a reason for it.
Right.
So,
yeah, but all along the lines of resiliency. So when I do these podcasting sessions, I usually plan for interviews. And so I called Liz, who... I do know her sister, and she'll be on another segment. And then Liz and Sarah both introduced me to another woman who has become a very dear friend. And we were all on that segment for a bit, and she's separate. But it's been a really fun day.
Yeah.
But all of us had very challenging mornings. So I'll let you talk about yours.
Oh, just rushing around. Nothing serious, but just I thought I would have a lot more time, and just a series of events.
Yeah, and you thought you would take a breath before you arrived here.
Yes.
To do something that's not something you do every day either.
Yes. This is my first podcast.
Is it?
I've never done this
wow,
before.
Look at us.
Yay.
Yeah. So I know my first one that morning, I didn't do anything. I took a hot bath. I just, was peaceful. And this morning I went to the dentist thinking it'd be an hour.
I know. I can't believe you did a dentist
I don't
on the
mind
same
the
day.
dentist.
That's good. I have a dental phobia.
Oh, I do not.
Sure.
I had a really mean dentist as a child when they didn't used to even, in my neighborhood, we couldn't afford Novocaine or any of the other extras.
Good God.
And the dentist did not like little children. So I learned to self-hypnotize at the time. I would pretend I was Snow White and go over to the window.
Oh,
yeah.
that's
sweet. I tell about that in another segment, but that's how
I've always had nice dentists too. There's no reason for it's completely in my head. But it's funny that you say that, self-hypnotize, because I definitely, over the years, I do, I meditate before I go. And I find if I just don't look at any of the instrumentation, I think it's just something, the tools.
It looks like something out of Braveheart. So we've been through a lot of each other's things over the years. And when I met Liz had just moved back from England. And tell us your story about that.
Right. So I had been living in England for 22 years. I had studied there at university. I did a Temple University program abroad, and I met an Englishman as you do. But we ended up getting married, and I moved to England, and I loved it. I loved England, and we lived in London and then on the outskirts of London. We had our son, and then in 2008, my husband died from a cardiac event, basically a heart attack. It turned out it was something called viral myocarditis. So very unexpected. He was 45, I was 41, and so it was a huge
And your
shock.
only son, wasn't it his birthday or something?
It was
weird like
It was
that?
the day before my son's 11th birthday. So, it was tragic. It was shocking. Stayed in England for 2.5 years after Tom passed away, and then moved back to this area in 2011. Yeah.
Wow.
And I moved back to this area. When I say back, I grew up here, well, from when I was 12 years old through college. And my parents lived in the area. My sister lived in the area. So I just thought it was really good to come back.
You needed your people.
Yeah, I needed my people. There were a tragic few years. My late husband, both of his parents passed away. My mother-in-law a couple of years before he passed away, and then my father-in-law a couple of years after. So we didn't really have any family in England, although we had a great network of friends. But my son was coming up to a point in his schooling where a lot of the kids in England were going off to boarding school. So that support group was all kind of breaking up. So I decided to come back here. And so when I came back, it was actually kind of the first opportunity that I had to really kind of regroup after my husband had passed away, because the 2.5 years prior to that, I was just dealing with looking after my son. There were a lot of things to do with the settling the estate. There were a lot of complications with that. So anyway, when I moved back to Pennsylvania, it was really the first opportunity that I had a little bit of a break. I had the support of my family, and so I could kind of regroup. And so I started, I'd always done yoga, but on and off. So when I moved back, I really took a deep dive into doing yoga. And then I decided to do a yoga teacher training course, mainly really just to give me a focus, and also so that my practice, so I would keep doing it, so I would know more for myself. Not really expecting to become a yoga teacher, but as it turned out, I did.
You sure did.
I did. So
yes.
yeah, so
and
that's
a wonderful yoga teacher. And then, okay, so this portion of your life, like what, so Alex knew nothing but England.
yes, so my
right?
son. That's
Yeah.
right.
And then he came back here to a family he hadn't seen that much of. Right?
He was always pretty close with them, which
Okay.
was good.
Yeah.
My parents and my sister, and then I also have a network of cousins and aunts and uncles, and we would come back to visit. And so there was a relationship there, but no, it was literally coming to a foreign
Yeah,
country.
culture
So
shock. Yeah.
huge culture shock. It was a culture shock
And
for
going
me
into
too.
like high school.
Oh, he
right?
started at middle school.
Oh, did he start at middle
He
school?
started in eighth
Okay.
grade, so he moved back here in eighth grade, and it was
Well, the tail end of middle school too, but the other
the
kids
tail
have
end. I know,
all,
just
like,
for a year.
right when all the hormones are raging.
Yes,
and they're
it
into
was.
that. Yeah.
It was
Because
very
a lot
challenging.
of times, like I had all brothers and all boys, and I think sometimes because boys don't have, except for a cracking voice and get man hair on their legs, they don't have a physical manifestation of going through puberty, so they don't get the same breaks that girls do sometimes.
Maybe, yeah.
I noticed that because I raised 4
Mhm.
boys, and so I really picked up on it then. Not so much with my brothers.
Yeah.
I just thought they were jerks. No, they were lovely, but they were twins, and they were just a lot. And
Yeah.
but I love them dearly. And so and so that was huge. I mean,
It was
very
It was
brave.
huge. It was I know there were many times that I questioned my decision. I just thought, oh,
But
was
now
this
that
really
you're
the right thing
now
to do?
probably that you're further out and you look back, you really think like, wow, how did I do that?
I do. I
Yeah.
do. It very often when you're in the midst of something,
Oh.
you are really oblivious to kind of how monumental it is. And thank goodness too, because I think that if had I really understood kind of I don't know, just the enormity of so many changes in such a short time, I probably would have been paralyzed. So fortunately, a little bit of.
But again, this is this whole purpose of this amazing movement is resiliency. Like, how do you get up every day and not dwell on the other? Because there's so many people that do, and I'm glad. But this, circle, and that's what we're hoping. If any of you out there struggle with anything, know that you can support. There's play. There is support. There is
yes.
you have to be almost strong enough to seek it.
Yes, that's very true.
I know
that is another thing. Looking back on those years, I wish that I did reach out for support more than I did.
Yeah.
I really sometimes I look back to. Myself
you offered
almost
it so generously
as another person.
Yeah.
Well,
because I wasn't at a place where I had learned yet how to be that vulnerable.
Right.
And so you are that person that welcomes people in enough that they feel safe.
I think one thing that having gone through what I did makes me recognize struggle in other people. Yes. And, sometimes I think maybe even this just occurred to me, but sometimes maybe when I do offer help or support, it's kind of like almost offering it to the girl that I was then. I say girl because now I'm 57.
I'm never growing up.
That age, I look back and I just think, oh my gosh, I was such a little baby, really.
Like, how did you know? And then the whole idea is you go through these life events, and when you know better, then you can do better.
Yes.
And I don't know if you have to truly say, I recognize that, but somehow you embody it, and then it helps.
Yeah, it sort of evolves. It evolves. It's just being aware and recognizing. And and so now, and in fact, I guess I could bring up Widows Rising.
Yes, please.
So that's sort of how that came about. So, so my husband passed away in 2008. I'd actually just recently become a qualified primary school teacher in England when my husband passed away. So, I taught there for a couple of years, and then when I moved back to Pennsylvania, my teaching qualification was not recognized here. I'd gotten the teaching qualification in England. It wasn't recognized here. So I worked in learning support over at Beaumont Elementary School for a few years. And I eventually did get my Pennsylvania teaching certificate.
You were determined.
I was so determined to get it. It took a very long time. But I did get the teaching certification, which is just kind of ironic because I never have taught as an elementary school teacher here. So what happened was I was working in the learning support at Beaumont Elementary School. And at the same time, that's when I did the yoga teacher training certification. And then just sort of how so often happens where you just follow the things that interest you. And, I was just kind of drawn, as I said, to do the yoga teacher training certification, not with an intention of teaching. But towards the end of our course, just before we were certified, an organization was born called Mindfulness Through Movement. And that's teaching yoga and mindfulness in city schools. So I started teaching for that. So it was a great combination of my academic education experience and my yoga education experience. And so I still teach for that organization now. So
and is that in charter schools or in public schools?
It is. We're in, I think.
And this is in the Philadelphia area.
In the Philadelphia area. I think we're in 20 schools.
Wow.
We've got 17 teachers in 20 schools. So we're in our 10th year. And it's charter schools, independent mission schools, and public schools. It's a combination of schools. Yeah. And we teach kindergarten through 8th grade. So this year I had 2 schools. I have 3rd grade at St. Barnabas Independent Mission School and 7th grade at Carver High School, which is a STEM school near Temple. Yeah, so it's a great kind
So
of
two magical ages, because they're hitting the double digits
so
at
different.
third grade, and
Yes.
yeah, and they're still have that, hopefully, some innocence, and then you have the getting into the teen years.
Yes,
Yeah,
it's
and oof.
the teen years. It can be challenging, but it's also really gratifying because we could take a deep dive with a lot of the mindfulness concepts, and our goal is to teach kind of emotional resilience and give students the tools to really recognize when they're perhaps becoming elevated and learn to calm themselves.
Oh, I remember at the end of
And focus
the
too.
yoga teacher training program where we met.
Yes.
And I never intended to teach yoga because I have a Pilates studio, but all movement deepens my knowledge, and
Yes.
yoga truly is the original functional movement.
Yeah.
5,000, 6,000 years ago, and that most other things are born of that.
Yeah.
But during the end of that, there were these two young men, or three, that had grown up in the projects of Baltimore.
They were from the Holistic Life Institute.
That's what it was.
In
Okay.
Baltimore, Maryland.
Yes.
And they trained us. So
Yes.
our program, sort of the
Grew out of
genesis
that.
of it was
Yeah.
from their program.
I just loved being in their workshops.
Yes.
That was so powerful, and they were so wonderful. And
Yeah.
wow.
They're amazing. They really are it's really a movement now of bringing mindfulness into schools, and they are definitely at the forefront of that.
Mm-hmm.
They do trainings like at the Omega Institute, and I think at Kripalos.
Wow.
So they go around the country.
So they
and
still
do
are active.
that. They
I
are.
really respected all.
They're
Yeah.
they have so much foresight, and really, really great. And so our program came sort of from training from them, and we've evolved a lot. So now I'm the director of teacher development. So I help to write a curriculum there.
Wow.
And help to train teachers.
So your teaching has really
evolved a lot. Yeah, for sure.
But also, I mean, you said you never really had to teach school here, but you're
Yes.
teaching everywhere.
Yes.
And you just are a teacher.
Well, it's sort of and that's one of the things in our program. You have to be a yoga teacher to teach for mindfulness
Okay.
through movement. But a lot of people who teach yoga have not had experience with behavior management in schools. And so that's really the part of it that I help with, and, help teach them, explain to them the curriculum. And so we have training, and then we also mentor our new teachers now, which is a big change from the beginning of when our program first began. We were kind of just thrown into the schools without a lot of mentoring because it was a new program. So, but now 10 years on, we have, quite a few experienced teachers that could go in and really help the new teachers figure out, how best to use the curriculum and the behavior management.
Yeah. Wow.
Yeah.
And good for those kids that they're willing, and
Yes.
that they have people that, outside their families, because it's so hard sometimes. It's really lovely that they have that outside influence.
Yeah, I think it's really like a missing piece in schools now. Classroom teachers are being expected to do so much more than just teaching academics. A lot of kids are coming to school with fewer social skills.
Because of all the fallout of the quarantine.
Well, post-COVID especially, definitely. A lot of kids have gaps in their education. A lot of the younger kids who missed out on preschool and kindergarten, those years where you learn a lot of the social skills, how to behave in classrooms, how to interact with other students, that piece is kind of missing. But the teachers, the academic teachers, they have the expectation to move them along to certain goals academically. And so they don't have a lot of time to be, specifically teaching those skills. So we really find ourselves filling that gap a lot, helping with that.
And it's not a requirement. The children choose to participate?
No, it's part of their day.
Oh, it's
part
part
of their day.
curriculum.
Yeah, it's not an after school
All right.
curricular. It's built into their
Wow.
day. Yeah. They're 45-minute classes, and it's part of their day, and the schools are recognizing the value of doing it for behavior management. They find that students are able to maybe regulate themselves a little bit better, get into conflict less often, or resolve conflicts more quickly.
Wow.
Yeah, so it's
Yeah, those
it's
are amazing
exciting.
skills to
Yeah.
teach and acquire.
Well, now social and emotional learning is a requirement in curriculums in schools,
Wow.
and our program fulfills that. So when we first started, we were more movement, more yoga, but now we realized we've evolved to being not more mindfulness, but probably equal parts of mindfulness. And the movement, of course, enhances that. It all goes together. So
Yeah. Let's hop back to the Widows Rising and
Oh,
when did that
okay.
come along? And and you even said that when you were first a widow, you would not have probably been ready for this. And I don't know. So explain it and
Yeah.
how people could seek your
Right. So,
network.
Well, actually, I was thinking that I just went off on a tangent, but it will come back together because as the director of teacher development at Mindfulness Through Movement, I'll talk to potential new teachers. So if somebody hears about our program, they're interested in teaching with us, they'll have a conversation with me, and I'll explain the program to them. And so probably about 6 or maybe even 7 years ago, a potential new teacher called me. Her name's Sonia Jacobson, and I was explaining the program to her. A friend of hers referred her to our program, and she said, I think that I'd be interested in teaching this program, teaching for mindfulness through movement. And she said that her husband had passed away a year or so before, and he had ALS. And so he had a long illness. So, and he had passed away. And I said to her, Sonia, I told her my story. I said, I understand a little bit of how you're feeling. And I told her my story. And so the two of us became friends. We would meet up from time to time. We had this common bond of both teaching for mindfulness through movement, but also being widows. And I was, sort of further along at this stage than she was. So, so we developed a bond over that. A few years after that, I was teaching a beginner's course at a yoga studio. And there was a student that came that I could tell something was going on with her. And she started coming to my classes after the starter series finished. And one day after class, she was just, opened up to me. She was, she had a big
shift.
She had a big shift. And so she told me that her husband passed away, but probably just 6 months before. So it was very, very fresh with her. And so I put her in touch also with Sonia. They both had places at the shore, and she was going down to the shore. So the two of them connected over the summer. And then the following fall, the three of us would get together for dinner. And we would get together for dinner every few months. And it was helpful for all of us. It was very, supportive in a lot of different ways. So after maybe a year and a half of just the three of us getting together, Sonia said she had a couple of friends who were widows. Could they join us? And so long story short, this group started to develop that there were about 8 of us, and we would get together every couple of months, and we would go for a happy hour. We went candle making. We had,
Liz is magical about pulling people together.
So we did various different activities, and everybody. And it's not the sort of thing where we would sit around and tell our sad stories. It's actually it's really, we'll have fun too. So nobody has to talk about their story. but it kind of creates space for people to feel like they want to, right? So it's sort of like just organically grew from there. And then last year, Sonia and I said, maybe we should open this out to, and we had sort of toyed with that for a while, open it out to, people that we don't know, make this more of a community. So we did. So we started Widows Rising, and we now have a website. We have an Instagram page, and we hold events monthly so far, although over the summer it may not be quite so frequently. So we've been holding events that are open to the general public. And so we started off with a sound healing at Verge Yoga Studio, and it was great because Carol, the owner there, did a sound healing for us, and so we've been using that space. And then the following month, we did a gentle yoga and yoga nidra, and then we're going to have another one next month. We're also going to have a happy hour. So basically it's opening out to a lot of different people. And it's nice because people are, as I said, again, all at different
and if anybody's not
stages.
ready, at least if you view this and you know someone that they know something exists.
So some people
because
have
you
come,
might not have any idea.
Yes.
And it might be better not to be with people that experienced it but that aren't your family or
exactly. So it's just sort of creating a space where people, we've all been through not the same experience but similar experiences. And I feel with grieving, it's at the same time like deeply personal and individual. It's very unique to the person who's going through it, but also common and universal. It is a part of life.
Well, in general, loneliness is an epidemic.
Yeah.
And so,
And so,
feeling isolated or just even isolated in your thoughts about that part of you.
Right.
Exactly.
And then
not even having to talk about it. Like you just know in this group you're understood already.
Exactly.
Yeah.
And again, some people really, need to share, need to talk about it. And other people don't really want to.
But benefit from hearing.
But yes, benefit from hearing. And also it's not just about, the grief, but it's all of these other things that come up. Children, how to best support children.
Because the children probably don't realize there's other children that have lost a parent.
Yeah. What to do if you want to start dating and, how that feels, or if you don't want to and how that feels.
I remember some of your stories about that. Yeah.
And then also, a lot of times, just being financially, maybe people are all of a sudden in a different situation or feeling uncomfortable about, how to proceed financially or who they can trust. That's another thing. You find yourself alone all of a sudden, and, people aren't always out for your best interests. So you can feel vulnerable like that.
That you've navigated it and are now happily remarried.
Yes,
and
have
blended family and, your family support. And, and, and you had another tragedy during the quarantine.
My mom passed away. Yep. Yeah.
Suddenly also. I mean, even though she wasn't in the optimum health, she was
it was
not
a shock.
So unexpected.
No, it was unexpected, and it was shocking, and it was right at the beginning. It was in May of 2020, and it was just that time where everything just seemed to, the world just shifted. And everything kind of seemed unreal, and that definitely added another layer onto that. And
I remember that I learned about something that your dad had that I'd never heard about before: grief amnesia.
Oh, yes.
Yeah. So he just
in the immediate aftermath of her passing away, he couldn't remember the events that had led up to him being in the hospital and hearing about.
Yeah.
He fortunately shifted out of it after a few hours, but that was.
Yeah. And when you told me that, I'm like, I never heard about that.
No, I know. It's so trauma induced.
Yeah.
So we've had a lot of different situations like that.
Yeah.
But even, even with that, I um understood kind of what it's like to be in shock a bit, because when my husband passed away, it was one morning when we were getting ready for work, and I we had to call the ambulance, and it was a traumatic morning. Let's just put it at
Yeah.
that.
And you deal with
And
it, but like you really don't have any choice, but
yes,
you
so
don't
you
even know
kind
how
of
to navigate that.
operate on two levels. Like,
Yeah.
so one, I was very practical going about doing all the things that I had to do, but on another level was just kind of very
Surreal.
detached.
Like
It
it's
was an
having
outer,
this,
yeah,
yeah.
very out of body
Surrealistic, yeah.
experience. So, and I think, my father had a little bit of that. So having experienced that, I kind of, you know, understood a little bit of what he was going through. So,
Yeah, but I've just always admired how you just navigate all
oh,
this stuff.
well,
Yeah.
not wouldn't say it's all been smooth sailing
No,
for
but
sure.
still, they're, when people are in the thick of things, sometimes they don't see their way through it, but you don't have a choice but to go through it.
But I always have felt that we all have within us the tools that we need to get through anything, and it's just a matter of accessing them. So that is a thought that I had before any
Yeah.
of this happened. So I really do think that,
But that's an innate resilience that you have it. I think I have it. I know your sister has it.
yeah,
And then the other, the whole, that's what we want to let other people know, that even if you don't feel that you have it in you, you can find it.
I do.
Yeah.
I think if you allow yourself to, I think a lot of your ability to access it.
And it's oftentimes outside circumstances that people feel like they can't,
Yeah.
even if they feel strongly about dealing with something. I mean, it's a really tricky wicket, but
Yeah.
but that they're, I hope that the people that I have on this program, that you feel that you could, write to hello@carolberinger.com
Yes,
and
yeah,
get in touch with these
definitely,
people.
definitely.
You don't have to remember any of the specifics or go click on something. Just, I love to build a network. Like I build and rebuild my network, either socially, and especially now, like my priority is, taking care of my health as I get older and make sure that I have everything in place. And I've always done that. And so, but I want to ask you, so you're yoga and mindfulness meditation mentor extraordinaire, and Widows Rising, something that, you've really, just, I feel like
it's just starting now.
But
So that's
but
something
I can tell when I talk to you how you're inspired by it. And but aside from all those things, like I know things about you, but what are the things that you do for yourself that are just totally apart from any responsibilities?
What are the things I do? Well, I love obviously I love yoga. So I do a lot of that. And that is something that I do because I enjoy it. And just a benefit of it is that it helps.
It's movement.
Just my general well-being.
Yes.
So that's good. I have been trying to incorporate things with more weights now.
Mm-hmm.
So I'm trying to branch out because
I've done that recently too. Maybe it's in the wind. I don't know.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I had gone away for a weekend to celebrate my sister's birthday with our cousins, and they were all talking about how important weight training is as you get older for your bone density, which I've known, but now I am actually, trying to incorporate that.
Yoga has a lot of weight bearing.
It does.
Yeah.
It does.
So.
But just trying to branch out a little bit and switch it up. There's have you seen the Julia Louis-Dreyfus? She has a podcast called Wiser Than Me.
Oh, wow.
And what she's doing is she is interviewing women that are older than she is and trying to get their wisdom. And it's a great premise for a podcast. And I can't remember.
I think it's part of this one. That's why I was inspired. Well, I was actually encouraged to do it because, I'm in my 70s.
Yes.
And and I plan on making it to 100. So
Yeah.
So and only if I'm this vital. I mean, I
Right.
really that's it's fun. I mean, it's actually, it really is enjoyable. But I think
Yeah.
that, like with movement, with yoga, and my Pilates
Well-
background, like movement starts you.
Yeah.
It really gives you a starting place, and then you feel better about yourself. So then anything you learn, when you know better, you do better. And I find in my studio, like, people come and they just feel better about themselves, and then they do better.
Yes.
And then they just continue to do better and move forward. So all of this movement is movement and movement and movement. And then yeah. So, but I know. So speaking about movement, yeah, go ahead.
What I was going to say is on that podcast, one of the guests, and I can't remember if it was Isabel Allende, the author, or Jane Fonda, but one of them was talking about how intentionally they went forward in their lives, and how when they turned 60, they thought of this as their third chapter. Right. And what they wanted to do in their third chapter. And I'm 57 now. And so, basically 60 is knocking on the door. And I thought, do you know what, I loved that idea of really like, okay, I'm coming into my third chapter. Like, how do I want that to look? And so what you said about you want to live to 100, but if you're moving and
I want to be a vital human.
Yeah, and be vital.
Yeah.
So I have been.
And it's possible.
Oh, yeah.
Easily.
It is.
Not easily.
It is for sure.
Not easily, but it's possible.
It's possible, but you have to.
You have to be an advocate of your own.
So now, like, I'm trying to create habits that will, be able to help me sustain that, going forward.
Yeah. I kind of think I've done it every decade.
What just thought of your chapter?
Yeah.
That's
now that my chapters are getting shorter, I'm going 5 years at a time. But yeah, I know it's fun. I actually enjoy it. I like to play that game. Like, oh, what would you do if you like won the lottery, or what would you do if you could just choose any way of being? Or we all kind of did a lot of things, and probably up to our 30s, like what was expected of us.
Yes.
So you wanted to please everybody and do the right things and be the right person and grow and then you realize that. And at some point people just continue that, but sometimes you get the opportunity to say, I'm doing something different.
Yeah, exactly.
And I do it a lot, and I don't mind change. And
no, you're great at that. I mean, you're very inspirational in that regard. No, you are, but one thing I love about you, or I admire about you, is you are always learning new things. You're always taking new trainings and courses.
Because I'm attempting Spanish.
Oh, that's one of the things I want to do.
Oh my gosh.
Do you know, I studied Spanish
Mucho
in high
gracias.
school. Muy bien. I had studied Spanish in high school. Maybe next year we'll do this whole podcast in Spanish.
Yeah, we might. That would be super fun.
And I never, was very good at it. I don't think I really gave it much effort. And then when I was living in England, we would vacation in Spain.
Because it's close by.
Yeah, it's close by. That's kind of like the Florida for people in Spain. It's when you want some sun, you go there. So when I was in my 30s, I did take Spanish again. And I was starting to get I was pretty decent.
I think I'm pretty terrible, but I
was able to express myself. I had a problem when they then responded so quickly, and I was like, wait a minute. But so I would like to take that up again. And I am not good at learning self-paced for something like that. So I do have to.
Yeah, I go in spurts.
But
I do have a tutor every week that I do.
That's
Zoom
good.
With, and so I'll tell you all about it when you're ready. So but one of the things that I really admire so you told me, I think, that you want to attempt. Liz is a traveler.
Oh, yeah.
Traveling and reading. So those are the things when I think of Liz and what her passions are. Like, she's always recommending a great book. And the last one was The Glass Maker.
Oh,
and so now I'm doing The Girl with the Pearl Earring because it was the same author.
Tracy Chevalier.
And then I was so intrigued by the book and knowing it was The Girl in the Pearl Earring, and that I watched a TED Talk how she decides to write a book and what is
Oh,
the
I've gotta watch
impetus.
that.
Oh, it's really cool.
Yeah.
And so, anyway, so I love that because then I get excited about something and I just go on this bender. And so, yeah. And then your husband wants to see every state
He wants to go to every state.
and you want to
Yeah.
go to every country.
I want to
As many countries as you can?
No,
Or
you know what? I want to go to every continent.
continent. Okay.
Yes.
So, yeah.
Yeah.
So I knew it
wants
was,
to,
yeah.
And actually, it was very cute because for our second wedding anniversary, so we've just been married 4 years. I can't remember. Maybe it was the third. Anyway, the traditional gift is cloth, and he was so clever. He got a outline of a map of the United States, and we color in the states we visited each time we go to one.
Yeah.
So he said that he's much closer to all 50 than I am. And I'm not actually that bothered, to be honest, if I get to all 50. I said some of the states, I'm like, you could take somebody else there.
Yeah. Don't want to take your boys. Yeah.
I'm like, Hawaii and Alaska definitely take me.
How many continents have you hit?
Oh, let's see. I guess Asia, Central America. That's not a continent. North America, Europe, Africa. So I've got Antarctica.
Well,
that's
everybody
gonna be,
loves that trip.
I know.
Yeah.
That's what I heard. I have some friends that went there a couple
I
of
think
years
Eleanor's
ago.
gone.
Yeah, Eleanor
Yeah,
went.
well, a mutual friend that in another episode that I
Yeah.
hope you all watch every week. And so, yeah.
Yeah,
Wow.
Eleanor went. Yeah. So what do I have? I guess I haven't been to South America, which just seems,
Yeah.
neglectful.
I think we covered everything. I mean, clearly, I don't have to ask you how you intentionally resolve to be resilient every day, day in and day out, because you just live it.
Oh, well,
Yeah.
I'm trying.
Yeah, I know.
I'm trying. It's a
Yeah.
work in progress.
It is, but
I
yeah.
think a lot, like I said, I do think a lot of it is the attitude that you have, and I firmly believe. And I remember after my husband passed away, very soon after, my parents came over straight away. They were so helpful, and when they had to leave, to come back to the States and leave us there, my mother was just so worried about us, and she said, "Liz, are you going to be okay?" And even in the midst of, like, the shock and the trauma and the devastation of what happened, I really, and I said to my mother, and I remember I said, I know that I am going to be okay. I know that we're going to be okay. And I know that I'll figure out how to get through this. I said, I just have to, I'm like, everybody just has to shut up.
Yeah.
And so I could just listen
Yeah.
and really go inward and find that. And I believe that we all have that. It was probably why I was drawn to yoga even before this happened, because, it really allows you to tap into that place of strength that we all do have.
Yeah.
It's just whether we allow ourselves or,
Yeah.
take the time to access it.
Yeah. And I think it's any movement thing. I mean,
Any movement. It is.
movement thing,
It is.
because, yeah,
I agree.
Yeah,
I
because it's
agree.
a basis of health and fitness. And I think it might have even been Joseph Pilates. I do a lot of Pilates quotes, but or it could have been Juvenile way back in the first century, but it's something about having a sound mind and a fit body. And I
Yep.
think it goes back to
There-
first century. I think it was Juvenal who was a philosopher at that time. So it's
Yep.
something I've used in some of my presentations.
And there is
Yeah.
a connection that
Yeah.
science is
Yeah.
now recognizing and understanding, and that we do have this ability to find strength,
Resiliency.
to
Yeah,
find
it's just-
resilience.
Yeah. And, and with integrity, because and it builds integrity. But there's one more story that you have to tell before we say goodbye about when you came back from England. This just came to me because I'm thinking about the things that I know that Liz is amazing with and loves and is passionate about. And the other thing is animals and service
Oh.
dogs and all that business.
Yeah.
But your dog, when you moved from
Rudy.
when you came from, what kind of dog was it? And you
He-
came from England, and yes, and you had to get
So
it
I
at a
had a
different terminal.
Leonberger. I had a Leonberger, and oh my gosh, if you've never seen these dogs, look them up. He was just beautiful. It's a mountain dog that looks like a lion, Leon, French for lion. So, and he was probably about 150, 160 pounds. When he stood up with his paws on my shoulders, he was as tall as me. And so I moved, when we moved back to America, my son and I moved first, and he was shipped afterwards, because we had to wait till we got in our house. Anyway, they had to make a special crate to ship him because the regular crates were not big enough. And so he flew in, and I remember he flew in August, and the flight arrived at night, and I was so worried about the heat. So I go to collect him from the cargo place. Little did I know I had to then take his papers to customs before they'd release him to me. So then I go to customs, I do all the paperwork, and then I go back to the cargo place, and his crate was on one of those forklift type things. It was still on the forklift. And I was talking to the woman who ran the place as we were walking there, and my son was talking. And when Rudy heard our voices, he sounded like Chewbacca, and it was like he was trying to talk to us. He was not barking. He was just making this noise. And the whole forklift started to move, and all the guys working there were like, what the hell is that? And so they just opened up the crate, and he just bolted towards us. And it was amazing. He was the best. Story. He was such a good dog. Yeah.
But thank you for your time. This was so much fun. It's great to catch up. And, sharing our stories, welcomes other people to experience getting out of their comfort zone, I think.
Yeah,
so,
definitely.
Or growing their comfort zone.
But anyway. Just having the confidence that you do. You have everything you need within you to, be resilient.
And to reach out to those that might already have and share their resilience with you.
Yeah.
All right. Well, thanks.
Thank you.